I used to be one of those that'd be like, Black Americans don't have no culture.
Oh, man.
I definitely was one of the, my grandmother, I want to say it's 80. If they were to live in America,
yeah,
that's segregation. That's just coming out of the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
Where in Antigua, they had been free. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They had already pushed out their oppressors. Whereas here in America, like, they just moved across the street. So we definitely have a code switch type of dialect.
Do you feel that kind of disconnection from Antigua?
You do feel like you're almost not as authentic.
Yeah, you'd be like, that's why you got on the shirt to make sure that they
no,
to make sure they know.
We didn't have that. Didn't matter where you went.
So is that a Black thing? Like, no, you can't with my kids?
For me, I've heard it more with my like Black American friends.
Now, if they were to step out of line and pick out a switch, because we didn't grow up getting the switch,
man.
so it'd be.
I wish we had switches. Boy, I tell you, I can name some things.
Conversation we were talking about, I don't know how we got to it, maybe I should have watched it before getting on this, but you know, neither here nor there. We were talking about how closely tied my like experience is to kind of my upbringing. Like, I'm not able to disassociate from the racial experience as much as I feel like you can. And to me, I attribute that kind of to my ancestors in America, like having gone through slavery in America and the experience that my parents had that they've imparted on me, that I can't really get away from that perspective of me. But yeah, so I wanted to really dive into this conversation about the Black experience from the perspectives of Black Caribbeans, African Americans, and Africans, and just how we kind of see one another within the diaspora and all the things that come with that. So I think I wanted to start with what has been your view of, you know, African Americans?
Personally, it has gone through a lot of different understandings and changes, like, over the years. Growing up, we were definitely taught that we were different. Like, it was something that we heard regularly when we went out, how we carried ourselves.
So you were taught you were different by, like, your parents and everything growing up?
Right.
Okay.
Like, yes, we're Black in America, but we're not Black Americans. No. So that was definitely something that we understood and we approached today. Like, we're the same, but we're not the same.
Yeah. So I think, like, my view as a Black American, first of all, tell the people where you're from and how you, I guess, identify and all that. Whoa, you are doing the absolute most.
Yeah, I'm from
that.
Antigua.
Okay, a walking billboard. Okay.
But I would say I claim Florida.
Okay.
I claim Antiguan, raised in Florida. Mm-hmm. So culturally, my heritage is Antiguan, but culturally, I'm a Black Floridian.
Because that is different than a Black American.
It definitely is a distinction.
Okay.
So that's how I look at myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm blackity black. I usually tell people I'm Black, African American, and niggas, depending on who you're talking to. But yeah, growing up, I would say, and also I was raised in South Florida. So South Florida, I would say that most of my friends are Caribbean American. Like, I think I know, if outside of my family, I think I know more Caribbean Americans than Black Americans.
And it's so funny because I actually say, like, that's the difference between Florida and the rest of the 50 states. I consider Florida, like, the Caribbean of the United States. Because not only do you have, like, Black Caribbean, you have the Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, the Cubans. Like, it's just the shortest trip to now be in America. So, like, you set up shops.
Yeah. Not to, like... Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's everybody in my family. I don't know how my brother is, but I know my sister has primarily like Caribbean American friends, like you will see everything. Like my dad is married to a Brazilian, like I married a Haitian, like it's just regular for, I mean, at the very least, somebody's half in something else, but like 100% African Americans, I maybe can count on two hands. Definitely in my mind, I can only think of like, right now I can probably think of 3 off the top of my head of my friends that are all African American. But my dad was very, not just towards like Caribbean Americans, but just to people in general, very welcoming and open to it. Even though he has some of them ignorant views, like when I went to Ghana in 2019, he was like, "What did they look like?" And I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah, I don't know. They weren't.
They look like humans. They look like black people. They look like you, Dad. Actually, one of them, I'm pretty sure I saw my uncle there. So. But even though it was wild to hear him say that, in my mind, not that I wondered what they looked like, but I had not seen what the country looked like outside of Feed the Children on TV. So I was really like enthralled by what I saw when I got there. Like, oh, it is so much better than, I mean, of course I knew that they wasn't like all that or anything, but I didn't know to what extent the country was developed.
And it's funny that you would say that, because I think that's not just unique to how African Americans look at Africa, but also how West Indians and Caribbean look at America, because I learned American history in American history class. And we understand that that is a slanted view. So not only am I being told we're different, and then I'm being taught like, this is the condition of black people in America. They don't want good for themselves. And this is what they do. So
for sure,
you definitely have this, you can associate, but you don't want to be seen as
not too closely. A little bit of distance or whatever. And even within another layer of that is how Black Americans are taught to see themselves in America. So even though like in households we might have a little bit of pride within our culture, we have been conditioned to think that we are less than. And I think a lot of some of the like, I mean, there's the colorism and even how we try to get a leg up on like calling Africans names or calling Haitians names. I think it comes from that kind of like conditioning that's saying like black is bad. So the closer you are to Africa, the worse it is. Like the closer you are to European, the better you are. And so it's kind of like, well, we're black, but we're not as black as them. You know?
In 7th grade, I ran track, and that was my nickname, Africa, because of the speed in which I ran, the grace in which I had that I ran. All the black kids were like, bro, you look like you chasing one of them gazelles. And I used to be like,
what? A gazelle?
That's what they told me. And I'm like,
those are beautiful creatures.
Antigua. Like, we don't even have, I wouldn't even know what a gazelle look like.
Yes. And also, Africa isn't just safaris. But we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know. And that's the worst part about it. Like, we made these opinions and assumptions based on what that white man wanted us to think about ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was thinking about this earlier and I was emotional by myself because I was just so frustrated with how good a job they did at like separating us from each other, not just physically but mentally, to the point where we are like, I ain't one of them, you know?
And even that, the news that they get, so then most of my family still lives in Antigua.
Yeah.
And the news that they get, I was there, not this last time I was there, but the time before, was Miami news, New York news, and Los Angeles news.
Yeah.
3 metropolitan cities with a lot of crazy things happening. So every time I speak to them, they're like, you're not getting involved in all... I live in Tampa.
Okay.
Not all of Florida is Miami.
Okay.
But they have that. They're still being fed that
narrative.
It's all crime. It's all in these black areas.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you have any experiences with Black Americans that reinforced what your family kind of taught you to think of Black Americans?
Yeah, I would say there were a lot of confirmation biases for me growing up. Antigans speak proper English, the Queen's English.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they spell check with a Q-U-E.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, being that my dad also went to, like, grammar school in Antigua, he's very big on how you speak, the verbiage.
Yeah.
So, there was no finna slang we about to in the house. It wasn't. Like, we could talk like that around our friends, but we were very, yes, sir. No, today we are going to walk to the store, proper and with good diction. But the black kids were like, why you talk white? You think you better than us because you from across the water? That like that's what they would tell me. And I'd be like, nah, I just can't talk like that at the house, so I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
And so they definitely made me understand, like, my parents were telling me I'm different from y'all, and y'all are saying you different from us.
What do you think of that perception now, just having more knowledge about the culture and being older and stuff?
I'm more understanding of where it comes from.
Yeah.
Just, I had the opportunity to teach history.
Yeah, that helps.
And so it really opened my eyes to a lot of the plot devices that were used, the propaganda. And so it allowed me to see that there is a level of trauma that is passed down through the generations for Black Americans that we don't have.
Yeah.
My dad is 50 and my grandmother, I want to say it's 80. And
young.
If they were to live in America, that's segregation. That's just coming out of the civil rights movement. Yeah. Wherein in Antigua, they had been free. You know what I'm saying? They had already pushed out their oppressors. Whereas here in America, like, they just moved across the street. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of my view of, like, Caribbean Americans, Africans in America, and what parts were confirmed. And I think because so many of my friends were all of those different, like, ethnicities. Are they ethnicities? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't think any of them ever got really charged. In fact, I was embarrassed of them because it's like I couldn't go to one of my friends and call them one of those names. It didn't make sense to me. But I also couldn't separate myself from the fact that I'm lumped in with the Black Americans that be seeing them that way and calling them those names. So I felt a little bit of, I don't know, just embarrassment, really. But I don't think that I ever thought that. Now certain stereotypes of like how y'all dress being different. that'd be true sometimes. I mean, but it makes sense for exactly like because us with the sagging pants and all the other stuff, all the other things that come with like the hip hop culture that I would like to distance myself from too. We couldn't, but then like so even when we talk like about the speech and the diction, you know. I don't even know how I speak. Well, I mean, I know it's my parents, but like, if I spoke to, you know, many of my family members, you know, you might get someone that has good diction, you might not. It's just something that it depends on literally the parents.
No, top to bottom, everyone in my family speaks very proper. Cousins, grandparents, uncles, and aunts. Yeah, it's a very enunciated base. Separation, cadence. Yeah. I wonder if it's just so Antigua's British colonized. I'm trying to think of would it be the same for Jamaicans and they speak slang? Yes. I mean they speak Patois. So we definitely have a code switch type a dialect to where it's a broken form of English, but that is more of a like colloquial. So Jamaicans technically like in school they wouldn't speak Patois. But because they're a very rambunctious group, that's how they're separated. So they're going to speak more Patois so you understand that where I'm from. Yeah, most folks we call them. So then do you think your dad would see, like, when you guys break out into your, like, colloquial kind of dialect? He don't like it. He don't like that either? American dialect? No. Oh, no, they own, my parents? Yeah. Now that, because our community in Florida is very Antiguan, they speak a lot of dialect to each other. But when it's like when they went to school for us, it was never dialect.
It was only proper.
It was proper English, yeah.
So, wait, so are you saying now you're able to speak, like, not speak as proper as long as it's, like, the Antiguan dialect?
No. He always wants us to, because we're American. So, even though we're not American, our Antiguan family, they look at us as American.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
if we're going to speak, we need to speak proper English, not the slang, not the conjunction.
But can the ones that are in Antigua speak any type of way?
You have like proper speaking properly, and then you have like the dialect, which is kind of broken, kind of like.
But they accept that, or
is it to each other, like to each other, yeah.
Would your dad, would your dad look down on them?
No.
So coming to America, that means that you have to speak that way.
Well, that's because we don't have that. We can't, as American, we weren't ingratiate into the culture enough to speak dialect properly.
Oh.
Right. Okay. So you can, when we try, there's certain things, there's certain things we can say without, but when we try to, it's like, you're trying too hard. Stop it.
Yeah, okay. So I definitely get that. And it's funny. So, my ex being Haitian, but born in America, like many of his other cousins, for whatever reason, they're like expression. They're able to speak Creole, Haitian Creole, in a way that I guess is more authentic. I guess when they hear him talk, it sounds like you're saying like you're not really from there, kind of thing. What does that make you feel? Do you feel that kind of disconnection from Antigua?
You do feel like you're almost not as authentic.
Yeah, you'd be like, that's why you got on the shirt, to make sure that they
no,
make sure they know.
It's because I just went, and so I was wearing it.
You an extra tourist in your home country.
But you almost feel like you're less authentic. Yeah. But in truth, you're no different, because, like I said, the only difference is I was raised in America, but everything in which my upbringing is
culturally very much Antiguan. Okay, so were you proud of your heritage growing up? Were there any times where you tried to like hide it, or were you happy to try to blend inside? I mean, I know that you didn't want to get too close as far as your parents are concerned, but were there any moments where you were like, no, I'm black too? Like,
I wanted to be. Yeah. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I really wanted to be part of the hip hop culture, like black. You know what I'm saying? Like, but like it wasn't in me. Yeah, it's still not. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not the character that I can play. So it's But I definitely would say growing up, because grew up in the 90s. That's like great hip hop, great R&B. Like, I was really trying to, but my parents were not having it. They were not having it in the least.
Oh, that's funny. So, I mean, I've always been proud to be black, even though them white people would get on my nerves and try but they were just trying black as a race. They didn't care. They were non-discriminatory against that, which faction you were from. But I always felt this like jealousy when it came to like Caribbean friends, when it came to like, we don't have a flag day. Like, I mean, Juneteenth, we're just now learning about that. Like, I always felt left out. Like, I didn't have another language I could speak. I always just felt left out in that way. And it's not that I wanted to be one of them, but I was like, I want black to be cool too.
And you know what's so funny? I say that a lot because I find things funny. Whenever I really got into teaching history, I used to be one of those that'd be like, Black Americans don't have no culture.
Oh, man.
I definitely was one of those, but American culture is
built off of black culture.
Yes. Like, there is no separating American culture from black culture. Yeah. Unless you're talking about, like, the slavery stuff. But outside of that, everything that moves in this country moves because black people say it's cool. Yeah. Yeah, we definitely control it. But growing up, I kind of felt that too. I was like, what? Especially when I would go to like my friends' houses for dinner and stuff. Like, I wasn't sure if our
for whatever reason, it didn't seem like it had the same heart in it. I'm like, yeah. I don't know if it's because it's just seen as American. You know, like, we have it, but white people have it too. It just don't taste as good. You know, like, it's the same foods a lot of times. So
it's even with the language. Like, I would say, I think it's so funny that Americans be like, we speak English, because they don't. They speak American, but American as a language is only cool because, you know, black people put curves on it. You know what I'm saying? What you about to do? We finna go to the store. Yeah. Ain't nobody gonna talk to me like that. You know what I'm saying? And then we understand. It's just like so they did this kind of Sesame Street experiment where they were like, Elmo was eating the cookies and Cookie Monster was sitting next to him, and they asked a group of kids, like, who is eating the cookies? All the kids were like, Elmo's eating the cookies. And then they said, who be eating the cookies? All the black kids was like, Cookie Monster. And it's just like understanding that, just that, you know what I'm saying? Who be eating the cookies? Cookie Monster always be eating the cookies.
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah. That warms my heart, and it makes me happy to be black all over again. Yeah, like, and I like, even the language, similar to the food, it is something that Americans, like, because they be taking it. So it's like, it's a thing that happens. You can go to the South and hear white people talking just like black people, and you'd be like, that's ours, but it's a Southern thing. So it then dilutes it. It feels like, so what part is well, first of all of it's been raped and pillaged, but it still does come from our, like, heritage. It's just that it doesn't feel so distinctly black as your language and food is distinctly Antiguan.
I think I would disagree. Okay. But I guess that's because I come from another culture, because even when I see and listen to, because in my high school, like I said, I grew up in Florida. We had some girls, some white girls who grew up, you know, in the neighborhoods, hoods, and when they talked, you could not tell that they were white until you was like, oh, but even then I was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you got black friends.
Right. That's
like,
true. That's true.
You grew up with...
Yeah, you know, there's a distinction. They might use the same words, but the way that it presents, the way that they say it...
It's like, oh, yeah, you have some black friends.
Yeah, it's a little stank on it, like, that they can't quite, you know, get. Okay. So how now do you feel about Black Americans' view of Caribbeans? I guess you can talk about the view growing up and now how it's changed.
So I would say growing up, like, we were cool, but it was always established in conversation, like, y'all are different. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Just everything about
Black
y'all.
Americans saying it to the Caribbeans.
To us. Because in my high school, there were like 6 of us. And then in the high school across town, like, my whole other family was there. So there was a big group of... So we very stayed together. So, like, we hung out, but we didn't hang out because we weren't really allowed to hang out because our parents weren't sure how things were being ran, because my mom did hair. Yeah. So she had all the black clients, all the black women in the town that we lived in. They went to her. Yeah. So we knew everyone knew us, and so it was very kind of like, yeah. Yeah.
I
don't know if you can go over there.
Yeah, you can stay here with your cousin. So yeah, that is definitely a common theme of, I don't know, I would think that Caribbeans see Black Americans as, like, wild in a way. Like, and it's crazy because growing up, I thought it had more to do with my parents being, like, divorced at a young age, so they couldn't really, like, keep tabs the same way as a 2-parent household. But now looking back, I'm like, also, all of my friends were Caribbean American or Caribbean. And so I was free as a bird. Like, I could do almost anything that I wanted. Compared to anybody. Yes. But, like, of course, y'all have much more strict requirements. Y'all ain't going to nobody's house that ain't your cousin. No. And even then,
we can only have fun one. We can't have fun 2 consecutive days. That's sacrilegious. Yeah. Like, oh, you had fun yesterday. Don't expect you gonna do nothing today.
So and it was funny because growing up, like, it was always people, they were looking, Alexis, you get to do everything. You don't understand. You don't understand. You don't understand. And I'm like, I didn't understand, but I didn't know that it was a product only like, I didn't know it had to do because I was Black American.
Yeah.
I didn't know that that was an experience that was common to Black Americans. I literally just thought it was, my parents are old and they just tired of, you know, working that hard. They just let me go.
In the town that we lived in, it was very Black. We are rooted in this town, and then it's white. We have money in this town. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was like, that's how it was.
That's crazy that I'm just now realizing that, like, now.
They had like, even my cousin, none of our Caribbean household had the type of level of freedom our friends did. Yeah. I'm talking about like, oh yeah, Mom, I'm staying over at Johnny's house tonight. Okay, what? In order for that to happen, we would have had to write a 10-page paper. Every
Background
chore
check.
in the house, there could have been like military spotless before you even be like, hey, your brother who you've lived with your whole life wants to know if can I go? No. Yeah.
Did it have more to do with just discipline or like we don't trust outsiders?
Discipline.
Okay.
I think a little bit of both because my mom and my dad were very strict. Our family that just very. If you weren't to that level, then they couldn't be like, your kids can do that. That's fine. Yeah. But I'm not gonna allow mine. Right.
Yeah. I'm wondering how much of that, like, for where does this come from? And I'm wondering, with the Black Americans, does it come from the separation of the families? Like just not having 2-parent households for most of us, and it being a more kind of free, like, growing up, or just not having those types of tight reins, not having. And not to say that every Black American don't have 2 parents in the household, or that every Caribbean American does.
That it's strict.
But I wonder.
I think it more so leads to, you understood in our culture, right? Mm. Let's say you're a friend of my mom's, and I'm a 8-year-old kid, and I'm doing something I have no business doing outside in public. Yeah. You have the authority to then reprimand or discipline me. And then if I go home and complain to my mom, that's a second reprimand and discipline. Mm-hmm. Right? But here, I understand here in this culture, like, you better not touch my child. Why didn't you call? If they did something they're not supposed to do, call me first. Mm-hmm. So then it allows that it's not the same level everywhere you go. Like, I understand, but if I do something at Sheila's house, she's going to call my mom and then they going to talk. But if Sheila's step out of place. Sheila can't do nothing to me because Sheila's not. We didn't have that. Didn't matter where you went.
You can get it.
Oh my gosh.
By anybody.
And it was justified.
So is that a Black thing? Like, no, you can't whip my kid? Black American?
For me, I've heard it more with my, like, Black American friends. Yeah. That would not fly with their parents. That would not fly.
In my mind, it won't. Like, it ain't gonna go.
Like, I remember I had a conversation.
You better call me.
With my ex-girlfriend when I was telling her, like, my sister, I know if I have kids, my sisters better hold them to the standard in which they know. So if they have to discipline them, then they have, like, there's no question. And we got into an argument because it was like, ain't nobody here.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that, like, I'm okay with my siblings, my parents, like, disciplining my children because I know that we all grew up the same way, kind of thing. Now, if they were to step out of line and pick out a switch, because we didn't grow up getting a switch, okay. So it'd be.
I wish we had switches. Boy, I tell you, I can name some things.
Like, I think first of all, we get chopped down with words first. Like, you gonna get a good cuss out and be crying.
Maybe not first. Curse words.
Oh, no.
My sisters say all the time, like, there's nothing anyone outside of our family can tell us to hurt our feelings because every day our moms and dads let us know. All the things we were not doing adequately.
Yeah. But I don't. But I wouldn't be, because I remember, and now I'm trying to figure out what ethnicity this person was. But I remember on the bus, school bus, like one of the kids, like he was bad. He was bad. But the bus driver had permission to discipline him physically if needed, you know? And I was like, what? That's crazy.
In the state of Florida, it's not against the law. It's frowned upon. So if you have written consent from a parent...
Oh, yeah, with consent for sure. But I was surprised
illegal.
that they got consent. I mean, I wouldn't think it'd be illegal, but I was surprised that they had consent. That was something that would be like...
It's
that
easy
would not...
to get. Well...
a Caribbean parent to consent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there's no need for consent in the case. Like, teachers up until high school...
Dang.
...can give you lashes. And don't go home and try to complain because now you get more lashes.
Yeah.
Because why the teacher got to give you lashes?
I don't know. Yeah, now I'm going to have to think about why I feel that strongly because I've never really thought about it. It's just a default. Like, hell nah, ain't nobody touching my kids but me. Or, you know, like maybe a close family member. But,
no. All the aunties and uncles in the church could ring our ears if they were blood aunties and uncles or not.
Yeah.
Could hand me up.
Do you feel like you'd be okay with that with your children?
I would be okay if the community held them to the same standard. If I knew the community held them to the same standard that I held them to, I'm okay with it. Yeah. But if I have to question, then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I might be a little iffy.
Okay, so now, these days, I mean... I think the relationship has been ever evolving between, you know, Africans, African Americans, and Afro-Caribbeans. Do you feel the same, like, need to distance yourself from the cultural Black identity?
No.
Like, if people just mistake you?
No. I don't feel the need because my experience is Black. Here, once you're Black here, they don't see you as anything other than Black.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know amongst Blacks we might know, but to everybody else, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. We won.
We're all the same.
And so I personally would rather look like we stand united in front of them than anything else.
Yeah. I would say even, honestly, especially going to Africa, because prior to that I used to say things like, I'm Black American instead of African American because I'd never been there and I don't know how to really identify with that. And, you know, it is a new thing that we're like trying our best to discover our cultural roots and stuff like that. That's another thing. Not having that, knowing where we're from, that's another thing that makes me kind of jealous.
All right, guys. Yep, you guessed it. That's all for today, folks. You're going to have to catch the rest of this conversation next week, airing Wednesday. And trust me, it gets better. It is good, y'all. So thank you so much, as always, for rocking with me, rocking with us. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel, y'all. Tell your friends about me. Check us out on all the streaming platforms. That's Anchor FM, that's Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts. Wherever you look for podcasts, we're there. If you are on social media, check me out. It's Alexis. So that's ISS_Alexis. No E, no I, double S. If that isn't confusing enough, just check the link in the description for all of my handles. And yeah, I can't wait to see you guys in another episode. Bye.